for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this another shorter video update with me here today. I'm actually at home, and I'm sorry about the noise and disturbances because I already told you that where we live right now is very loud. You know, there's always someone working on something outside, so it is what it is. But I will try to get through this video because we finally have some beautiful sunny rays. Crystal clear blue sky is very rare nowadays because, as we know, we have constant false weather being created. And I want to talk more about the frequency art of the dark. So just today, or was it yesterday, we had a discussion brought up in my Illumined Union group on Telegram, which are some of the members that basically, you know, we just share with each other in the journey. And I do some readings every day, and it's just basically very spontaneous and open. And the people I add there are people who are my Patreon supporters. Oh, I can't believe this. A deer. Hey. So we've been having deer visitors around our house. They're not afraid of us at all week. I've been recording them. They come to feast on our lawn just as I started to record. Oh, I wish you could see it. They're beautiful deer, and each time we see them from a different location, they're not afraid of us at all. Feels like it's their home, and I guess they love this corner spot the most because, as you know, we're peaceful beings. So let them mow the lawn as we're going to do this video. So in our group, we had this discussion about frequency art because I stumbled across these videos. Frequency art by, I think the channel is called Archonic 777. And I was actually very taken by these videos because I came across many frequency videos, and not all of them are pure. There's a lot of counterfeit, you know, energy out there, and some vibrations are actually very distorted. But this felt very genuine and pure, so I actually did this activation. They're usually 10 minutes long or sometimes longer. And I did one about releasing dark portals from your energy and your association with them, or their association with you. And basically I had an instant body response to what was channeling through those light codes, or the sound frequency. It was very rapid unfolding. It's like my womb opened up immediately. It's like the heaviness went off. I felt so much tickling all around my body, like swirls of energy moving through. And basically, sometimes when this happens, you know, also our light family comes and works with us through these frequencies because we kind of create this field of light energy. And when I was actually doing some of these activations, and as I've said, I told you the name of the channel, you can browse yourself, you can see what you're guided to watch. I did some other ones, especially, of course, relating to the dark work. And basically, even I think the mission of the channel is to promote frequency healing because we have a world that's in spiritual warfare, okay? What is the truth? It is what it is in this world of duality. Not a lot of people know that, and some people would feel these energies, they call them entities, and some people would not feel them at all. And it really depends what kind of level of tuning into you are kind of accessing this truth. So I want to go deeper into this work because after watching the Archonic plasma creation and the life force drainage through that sound frequency, I had some powerful insights, okay? And I want to share some of them with you here today. So basically, the first thing I want to talk about is what we discussed, well, I discussed in the group, because as you know, a lot of people, when they discovered that, you know, there's entities and that it's not normal to have sleep paralysis when you go to dream, when your body should be resting, and that these are not natural phenomena. This simply is a work of beings or lower entities trying to be people in the astral, basically the lower astral. And when people go to healers that help them to occasionally, temporarily remove these energies or entities, you know, not often these healers would tell people that this is just temporary solution, because in case you don't know, there's no being as magical or powerful enough on earth to get you to, I don't know, to a certain state of your embodiment or to clear something away from you, because that's simply not how things are done. It cannot happen. But a lot of times there's a placebo effect and people believing that's what happened and took place. So their energy opens up because of that, and they feel lighter and more open, so they feel it worked. But then the energies always come kicking, screaming, you know, attacking people back. Basically, as I've shared before, you know, a lot of healers make people very much dependent upon them, and things don't really move in the right way. And I don't want to talk about this again because I've been basically discussing this for years and years of my work. I want to talk about the insights that came through for me today, especially about the Archonic grid design, okay? So basically, you have to understand that the only solution that even great illumined ones have always been sharing, that continue to share this truth, is that the inner body awareness and illumination, as well as the awareness of darkness and its tactics, have to be at the forefront, because there is no other way to heal but each being doing that within themselves on their own, because the dweller within our body is the one that's evolving. And the only way to truly evolve, as you know, masters integrate the darkness. They don't become themselves dark, but they have to understand and then integrate the way the darkness operates, because in a way, the only solution is achieving inner immunity. And even working with sound frequencies, as amazing as it is just a tool that we're using to get along the way, you know, because sometimes people absorb too much, and at a certain point that's the only solution for them in a moment, because the energy has to be cleared away. And I would recommend any kind of true sound frequencies healing to anyone, especially people who are very much living in these denser circumstances, and basically these energies are just feasting on them, and many of them they don't even know. And sometimes a feeling of being stuck in your life, not being able to move forward. A lot of these people also have energetic attacks and entities that prevent them from being moved further and making appropriate decisions, and cause them a lot of fear and self-doubt. So I would recommend for these people, because that sound frequency work will kind of help them to eliminate the first layer of what is even around them, to become even just present with the idea of what's present within their energy field that's not supposed to be. But there's levels of our energy field that extend all the way upwards, right? So the things that I talk about, or the transgression levels that I talk about in my work, are basically very, very high aspects of what we call the dark. And that light, that dark at that level is actually light, but is the light that exists without the element of love. And we've talked about this before, so I want to share this insight with you today. The next thing I want to share about these things is that you have to be aware the way these principles function. Otherwise, you're not going to build your own immunity and awareness, right? So I've been through my own transgression unfolding, becoming more and more immune to it, and doing inner work and healing my body after all the distortions and hijacking. And I will explain how that operates anyway, or how they operate, because you have to become aware. And people who are actually on the ascension path, or their desire is high frequency, moving on into ascension, leading them to the true original application of divine law, divine trinity, you have to understand that at the highest point, you as a being of light, you have to evolve with the darkness. You can't escape into the light, eliminate the darkness, and say, well, I just move them out of my field and, you know, they don't exist anymore. You have to accept the fact that darkness simply exists, and that has many layers, many levels, and many faces the way it operates, okay? So becoming more and more increasingly aware of that is the only thing that basically is your salvation, right? It's not calling a specific master. You know, anyone can help to be a bystander and a mentor and a guide, an illumined teacher, principal, but no one can do any sort of work for you. So eventually every soul being will have to realize that on their own. Okay, so that's the first thing I really want to share. One thing I want to talk about before I go into the insights that were revealed to me just recently is someone I had a session with actually shared with me that they once had a dream in which they witnessed the transgression and also what I was experiencing, well, basically a lot of beings experiencing. I wouldn't necessarily say, because there's levels, that I've experienced that particular aspect of it, because the being came to me and they shared with me that they was once in a dream witnessing almost like these beings were, of course, dark workers who actually had technology, and they were beaming these projections of these ET-like beings, talking about what they should project to those humans. And they were saying things like, oh, you know, let's use this image of this being, or this alien is too scary, so let's just give them the old classic gray look like. I mean, I hope I'm describing the dream correctly, because it wasn't my witnessing, but that's simply I'm sharing what some other individuals share with me. So, you know, in the image viewing, right, through this viewing, through the dream, she basically witnessed that the ways of these beings, right, the way they operate and how they would move this to the 3D level. So what they were doing, right, they were showing people that they were basically abducted, and that they could glamorize this abduction experience. I've talked about this as well a lot in my videos, that whole thing is so over glamorized, and people actually are, some of them, they're actually saying this is a good thing because they think and feel special, and that's what they're doing. They want people to feel special because they were somehow kidnapped or taken aboard of some ship or whatever. No advanced being has a craft, has a ship. It's all based on light intelligence, okay? And that light intelligence beams through, exudes, and illuminates. So there's different ways and usages, right? So these beings were shown as needing people to believe that they've been hijacked or, you know, kidnapped or harnessed by these gray-like or different creatures, beings, but they were actually being experimented on with these electroshocks. And that's basically what I saw through very fast. I never saw an abduction, but I saw experimentation energetic on me, and it was, as you know, happening for years, until the point of transgression that it got too bad, and it basically, as you know, overtook my whole body template. I'll explain what they do, because I got many more insights. And in case you thought, well, we're just going to stop talking about transgression, it's going to be all love and light from here, you're wrong, because this phenomenon unfortunately still exists. It continues to exist, especially in this heavy, dense, young realm. Earth is still a young planet, and there's still so much of young, naive nature in humanity that basically opens them up to these falsehoods, and someone needs to talk about it, and unfortunately that's me. That's the case. So we will continue to talk about it, and although I've been healing these things, I'm not taking myself into the position of now this is over, because remember, no master ever says something is over. You have to stay observant, vigilant, and always continuing with your self-awareness process, because each time I actually get new insights, okay? So I want to share with you these insights, what, you know, these things mean, the way these principles operate. The first thing I want to make clear is, you know, when people talk about these lower entities that are basically attacking them or choking them or drinking them of their sexual energy and these things, these are like the lowest echelons of these principalities, which means, you know, they have a whole structure. Their structure is hierarchical. Divine nature, divine beings, holy beings, they don't have a specific hierarchy, but they have each original aspects of their spiraling creation purpose, right? What we call variation of creation. These beings, dark beings, of course, have a nature and a tendency to have rankings, okay? So they have lower and higher echelons. So these entities that you would say, these demonic beings, creatures that sometimes we even relate to the underworld, a lot of these are entities existing around what we would say the lower, densest form of elemental nature of Earth, and we would call them demons or demonic energies. Beings that I talk about, these transgressors, these beings are basically, as I've said, they're light beings. They don't operate in the lower aspects of what we would on Earth perceive as dark. So it's very hard to spot them, because I've shared before, they're like almost like phantom-like creatures, like beings. That's why in the person's dream, right, they were shown as needing to project a certain image of a being, because they themselves don't have what we would call a body. So it's easy for them to put or program thoughts of a specific being or alien race or creature, so that human could accept that. And our brain, because the brain always has to classify, could get information what they dealt with anyway, and it's basically in a lot of cases it's false. There's very people who wake up beyond the hypnosis, and I'll explain how the hypnosis works. And it's involved in the whole sleep paralysis program as well, because that's how they get people, right? Okay, so these beings, right, these higher essences, these creatures, they're actually the highest aspects of what we call the dark. But at that level, it's the light, you know, they're still light intelligence. However, it's a light that doesn't operate, I've explained this over and over again, I hope some of you will get it, it doesn't operate within the divine trinity anymore. So it's light that excluded itself from existing as in divine union, which is love and light together in the space of Hieros Gamos the principle of giving life, birthing life throughout this universe and throughout the nature of what we call the cosmic Christ, which is basically the very essence of God, the spark of our prime creator, or, you know, what we simply say, our life-given principle, the primordial force of life that creates everything that, you know, has always been, always will be, and it continues to be within all of us and in all life. And so, what this being through the session also shared with me is that they witnessed how this electric energy is strong and powerful. So they saw it like being thrown, beamed at the ocean, and the ocean was almost on fire. You know, it's almost like you have to know that ocean also has organic matter, you know, like flying about. It's not just water. So basically, I guess this organic matter was able to burn even with the presence of the water. And when they were looking, they were viewing, they said, suddenly I was spotted, then they kind of zapped me. And you know, I always tell people in my videos, because I had a direct experience with this, you don't just get to have this for such a long time as me and survive. It's not just a natural phenomena. The way I was able to stay alive in this way, in this regard, is because I had very advanced helpers, which are these Aureas, these beings who are the illumined light Arcturians. And these beings basically are very advanced, but they use their light through, you know, the Trinity principle. And these Trinity principles are very powerful, and they're a counteracting force to these zapping elements of these electricity. So it's like existing without the potency of love, and it's so powerful, you know. The reason why it can destroy the body when it's given overly to an extent is because the body is not in compliance with this energy. It's not on the line with this kind of vibration, right? Because our bodies were created through the Elohim principles of life and life-giving. Our bodies basically follow the organic God, divine self principle of life. And because of that, anytime we become a conduit for that, and it's basically sparking up specific codes within us, it might elevate the body to move prematurely into a certain condition of high altered consciousness state, but it also affects the body negatively. It burns the body out, and if it's given to in an overly extended amount, the body can also die. And that's what I told you happened to me in the last segments of these portions of transgressions when I received, and one of them, as I've shared with you, I've literally witnessed it. I witnessed the burning coming through both of these channels and all the way into my body. So I've spoke about these constant chronic pains, which have made my nervous system very damaged. These frequencies are very hard to dismantle and discharge from the body once they enter into the encoding of the cell, right, the core of the cell. And I've explained to you probably even the beginning of these transgression work sessions with you that they can actually also kill the structure of the cell, which is the core. You know, they're able to do that, and it's very advanced. So the darkness is advancing itself. It's advancing the knowledge through which it penetrates into the light, and it basically disrupts the path of the light, right? And for that, they need our information. So they're picking up information and mining our bodies for that intelligence. I've shared that with you as well through these videos. The deer is still there, just eating the lawn. And so she can't get, you know, it's like she's disturbing me. And it's very hard to stay focused with such a subject when you have something so beautiful staring you right in the face. It's so cute. And anyway, they were able to manage, find pathways through which they could manage and maintain the hidden aspect, the way they can get to our bodies. And I'll explain more about this, right? There's a lot of people who don't want to talk about this, who don't want to hear that, because once you wake up to the nature of how disgusting things can be, some people get too much in shock. So I understand that some people left my work and they no longer wanted to listen because of that. But I simply must talk about these things because someone has to, and unfortunately it is me. Unfortunately, and yet also fortunately, because I woke up to the levels of transgression that, as Spirit said, no one yet has. And because it was their purpose to move through it and dissolve a lot of these things, but they still exist. And even though my work has created a powerful breakthrough point for many people to ascend through, it's not in itself going to be enough for each individual to ascend, because you have to know this whole prism, right, which became the holographic nature of the matrix, right? It's a hologram, and I've explained that the archons create through holograms, not in spiraling consciousness. That's how they create. So these distortions basically exist, and when you're actually ascending, you need to ascend through every one of these layers if you want to ascend yourself from this matrix. And unfortunately, it's becoming harder and harder for souls to ascend out of this matrix because it's being more dropped into what we call the level of 3D. So just like my friend said, right, she shared with me that they're trying to create, they have a technology through which they want to intercept into the 3D level. They want to put the life that now we say, where we're just witnessing that in the astral, they can put it into the 3D nature of life. That's the most dangerous thing. And that's basically how the Archonic consciousness designs forms. They create holograms, right? But these holograms, you know, what we say, they exist in these astral forms, right? It's not actually the lower astral, you would believe, but it's actually higher aspects of what we would say the astral is. That's why it's hard to spot. It's not the same as in these entities attacks. It's very different, but it all actually works together, right? Because I've explained to you once the levels, and the lowest rankings are the minions, right? And then the whisperers, and these are actually the lowest rankings of these dark soldiers. Yeah, it is what it is. So basically, for them to basically overtake planets, they need life, right, to enter, their holograms. They need to absorb them within these matrices that they're building. So you have these Archonic beings building these grids that they become the matrices. So then they want to drop them to what it's called the 3D form of life that is organic. 3D density in itself is not bad or low, like many of us say, but when the 3D consciousness exists in a very unaware state, and it can be absorbed and put into this astral, that's why many beings at night, right, these beings are trying to put humans into the astral during the night as we sleep, because we're unaware and we're like, oh, taken aback, right, surprised. You're not always fully conscious, right? So you have many different workers working together. Like someone would project you a false dream, you'll follow that dream, you wouldn't fully be aware, then someone gets you from the back. It's very dirty, because when anything that is dark remains hidden, basically you give it silent consent and has the ability to operate through you and work against you. It has to be spotted and witnessed with an illumination. That's the only way to end it in your case. Like in my case, right, the last transgression was in 2019. I no longer had it, but I've had clearings of it, and in these memories coming up, I was able to witness what they were doing. So in their process, right, of creating these grids and kind of trying to put the 3D life into them, they're wanting to embed 3D life within these astral prisms. So that's why I'm saying that the ascension is the only solution, because when you enter the spiral of life, and I've been talking about the spiral principles as the most important awareness, when you're in the spiral, right, nothing can get you, because you exist in a natural state of exuding divine light and divine intelligence of illumination and how we were originally created anyway. When you don't, right, you still have a tendency to be pulled into duality, and in duality all these things exist. And darkness, as you know, exists in many, many levels. But if we can't see it, you know, and people who get cocky and they would say, oh, I've mastered this and that and I'm fine, and they have huge egos, these people are actually usually used in the worst case scenarios. They're used or abused the most because they're very egoic. Their ego is pumped up and they think they're beyond and they're godlike and nothing can ever happen to them, okay? So it's very dangerous position to be in or to put yourself in. So now I want to go into sharing some of the things that I've witnessed. You know, when I shared with you when I was actually releasing this transgression from my body in the last 2 years, I always saw the spinning wheel, right? It was the spinning wheel and I couldn't get to what that is. And then I was watching something, I believe, it was before watching these frequency videos. I actually realized that that is basically their technology, which is they're using. So kind of like, you know, when you would come under the ray of light and under the reflector and it would blind you, right? So this was kind of like the technology of projecting the spinning wheel that basically is acting as a level of hypnosis. And under this hypnotic state, as a human, you're not fully alive. And it's in alignment with the paralysis state as well. And the moment you realize what it is, you know, you break through it. It doesn't have its effect on you anymore. You have to really be humble, right? People with ego who say, oh, I don't have those problems, I'm fine, you know, I'm just a special child, I'm always protected. You know, I believe I was. But you have to understand we're in the physical human bodies. Whatever kind of being you are, you exist in this body. And this body can have blind spots and it can have aspects that it's not fully coming to maturity and awareness yet, okay? So these kind of hypnotic things, right? The way I saw them operating when I was watching these frequency videos reminded me of a kaleidoscope. They kind of have these patterns. Well, you go and see for yourself. You're going to watch those videos. So these patterns right away reminded me, right, of these like reflectors beaming through. And it was basically through that memory I was taken back and thought, wait a minute, all these years I had these, when these dreams began for me, right, when the energies came and they were doing work on me, I actually saw them first through my inner eye. I always had like an inner landscape opening up to beautiful kind of like chrysalis opening, and it looked like a kaleidoscope, you know, patterns changing and going in and out and in and out and pulsating, and always different colors. And that's what I thought, and I explained it like, oh, it's my third eye opening. Yeah, it was, but it was forced, you know, it was a forced experience for this nighttime. So basically they kind of experiment with that, because you have to know the way the higher aspects of light, dark, I always say light because it is light. It's light, but it's light without love. It's fanatic, and therefore it's phantom-like. So those aspects, right, the way they operate is they always do these experiments on beings who are divinely intelligent. So usually star-born individuals who are more advanced soul beings, who have lots of record memory and collection. So they're actually picking up organic light intelligence information from them and putting that information into their matrix. So it's like reconstructing life. And one aspect of that is mining for information. The other aspect is, you know, basically stimulating the bodies or overstimulating the bodies with these electric currents to see the abilities of what you can do, and again then putting them into the artificial intelligence construct. It's very, again, I said it's disturbing, but it's happening. So going back to the way they do that, okay, so you have to understand, when these advanced beings, when we're here in these bodies, we still have a high quotient of our natural intelligence. However, we're in the bodies, right? Which creates a little bit of the problem, right? For us. So for them to basically get to us, they're using these light approaches. Because our bodies can read and pick up energy, because our bodies are always equally divine and intelligent as the soul that ensouls this body that comes through. So basically they would use the kind of mechanisms for the body to think, oh, I'm being beamed with the light. Oh, it's a team light, right? It's the light. So basically they're opening our bodies with light. The body can open up with anything like shrivels up in fear, you know, things like that. So basically they're using light, and it stimulates the body to open up. And when you're open up, right, and the third eye opens up and everything, then you're clear channel, right? Just come and pick up the information. So what's happening then, right, when we're getting to this information and all these things, they're mining for information. There's always something, there's something else here I want to share, which is the way to counteract that once you're aware. That's one thing, right? The principles I talk about here, and you to be more aware of them. You have to understand now how to break free and break through these things is you can't do it with light intelligence only, because as I've just explained, they themselves use the technologies of the light, but they use them in a distorted, dualistic, separate, inorganic way without divine trinity. So they don't implement love. They're doing everything very forcefully. They're finding these loopholes in these what we call divine laws, and you know, to make their clearing possible. And yeah, you have to know you can't counteract this with light only, like light, more light, because somehow you have to become aware that doing that and increasing your light intelligence, it's basically creating a more of a ripple effect. So it's like you're opening your body more to the light. Ooh, the more feasting there will be, because you're actually following their principles. They want to increase the light within you. That's why I talked about the first awakening for many beings being fake awakening, being given falsely, because it only focuses on the principle of the light, which is very rigidly masculine, right? You can't have one without the other when you're existing in the Christ presence of divine Trinity. So basically you can't counteract that with more light and doing more light exercises and just being in the light. You have to bring in the love, because their technology and their ways, they don't know love. They can't read love. And basically through love, you're becoming immune to it. And love is being cultivated through what I call the ascension spiral work. So as I've explained before, I do the teaching of the spiral work on Patreon. That's the level of more advanced work. As you know, here I can just share broadly with the public. And even though, as you know, public is shrinking. It's getting smaller and smaller because of the things I know I'm talking about, and also some of the ways that the darkness works in, that it doesn't want to make what I talk about available to everyone. But not everyone also is able to hear this, because it is disturbing, but is also the truth. And the main saying that the truth first pisses us off, and then it gives us a chance to break free. It doesn't break us free automatically, but it gives us a chance to break free, because you still have to choose it, and you have to follow the steps that lead you on the spiraling ladder towards your ascension. So these Archonic grids, they're basically multiplications. That's why sometimes it's difficult to move through them. So you have to become, as I've said, you have to become more advanced as a being. You have to evolve in alignment with the dark. Simple methods and ways that you can learn through the New Age teachings, the dark and the light, and this, they're still based on separation. So you can just kiss your ascension goodbye if that's the only tool you're going to work with, because it won't work. Just working with getting rid of the entities and these things, it's not going to end the problem, because you have to go to the core. What started this separation in the first place, right, is the withdrawal, the absence of love. And the more you start pouring love and becoming more magnetic, these things that are imposed, injected, incepted electricity, these electric zappings, the only way for their conduit to lessen and lessen, in the end, like shrink up and shrivel up, is to increase this through the spiral work. So I will teach this, or I already have been on Patreon. Those of you who are interested, you can always join me there. The teachings will be given there. I don't want to, repeat the things I've already been sharing. I will go and enjoy the rest of my day. As I've said, these things are very complex, and it's not necessarily for us to understand every single thing. I'm shown many, many things, the way these grids are created and how they're trying to embed life into it. The only thing I need is the basic understanding, because I don't want to go too much into it, like the very fine print or the fine artwork of the way these grids are constructed by them, because it's not my creation. But it's important for me to evolve with the information I receive from the family of light in order to understand that, so I can evolve with the darkness. I don't try to escape in the light and basically just filter back with a false light. We've talked about, right, the white light and the dangerous nature of being swept off our feet, not in a good way, basically blinded by the light. So it's very important for us to increase our intelligence, to work with love and light, because just pouring in light will actually feed into their prism. Because people who have actually been experimented on and they've had this work on, and it's not just me, I'm just the one who fully woke up from all of these aspects. Most these star beings, they're approached in this matter. It's just still very hidden, because they have the kind of technology that keeps this in a paralysis kind of state. And until you start digging it up, you don't even know what all was put into your body. So it's a very challenging topic, I do know, but I have to speak about it, right? I have to be open about it. And it's like, if you're going to just focus on the light, it will feed right into them. So it's so many hoaxes and traps. There is only one way for you to increase your divine intelligence. I'm doing it every day, gradually becoming more of who I am as the spirit of Aurea. So I will see you in the next video update. I hope you enjoyed this one, although it was a disturbing and difficult topic. It's not usually my favorite to talk about, but in case you're interested, you can also find that channel, Altona 777. I think they also have a webpage. You can do some purchases. I don't know, but also, if you are a follower of my work for, a very long amount of time, I would encourage you to also support my work and, get those courses, grab the information, get the teachings, join the Patreon, or, even just make a conscious contribution like a donation. So everything is there. It's time for me to wrap it up today, and I'll see you in the next video. As always, with so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care of yourselves, truly, It is our time to return back to our true source of power, which is Divine Trinity. I'll be seeing you. Bye for now.